Welcome everyone to Dragon Quest FM, where we talk about and obsess over Dragon Quest. I'm Austin,
I'm BJ.
and this week is our Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D Remake review. That was a mouthful.
Review. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I've been actually embargo is up now, so I can talk about it. I've been playing this game for like 3 weeks, so surprise! I've been playing it for a
Yay.
long time. Um, But before we get into that really cool stuff, we do have a new Patreon patron that deserves a real nice thank you.
We do. Brian Franklin, you're our number one fan. I'm your number one fan now. We love.
I honestly don't know if any of that is picking up. You're so loud, it's like spiking up, so it's just silence on my end.
It picked up on mine.
Okay,
So
well
so we're
that's
good.
good. So people will either hear silence or you being very loud.
Or that, yeah. So
One or
we
the
love you,
other.
Brian. Thank you for supporting the podcast. We really do appreciate it, and you and all of our other
Yeah.
patrons as well. If you'd like to become a patron, you can do that at patreon.com/DragonQuestFM.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you very much. Shout out to all our patrons. Really nice to have all you guys. So DQ3,
Yeah. So tell me
HD2D
about
Remake.
this. We I've
Um,
been looking forward to this for a long time to hear lots of specifics about it. So tell me.
yeah. So there's actually kind of a written version of this that you can go over to Screen Rant and read my review. I wrote it for Screen Rant, and can read all my review there if you want. Um, or you can just sit here and listen to me talk about it. I think probably most of the stuff that I wrote up is probably what I'm going to say today.
Right.
But because I can talk a lot more. I'll probably say more today than what's in the written review. But if you want to read it too, go for it. It's there. So I liked this game. Let me say
Good.
that right out the gate. I really enjoyed it. Um, it, I still, like the HD 2D art style is fine. Like I did not count that against it at all in the review. Like personal feelings aside, like I would have personally liked something made more in DQ11's engine
Right.
with 3 remake. It's just like we've had like DQ3 always looks like that, even the like the Switch ports, the mobile ports,
Mhm.
the like Game Boy version, the NES version, like we've had pixelated DQ3 like forever. And so kind of I would have liked a different look for this remake than what it had,
That's fair.
but whatever. It looks really pretty. I reviewed it on PS5. I couldn't decide between Switch or PS5. I decided for PS5, which ended up having some issues because then I started really trying for trophies. Um,
Oh yeah, that's bad for you.
yeah, and and that's the hard thing about it though is the trophy list isn't live like when I'm playing this. So the trophies pop, but I don't know what trophies I'm trying to get. So I was
Oh
just trying to like
no.
100% the game as much as I could. Um, some other fun like play things that I don't think all of it made into my written review, but just to kind of get this out of the way here. Um, and I should also say like this is going to be spoiler free. Like I'm not, this is the review. I don't want to spoil it for BJ because he doesn't know any of
Hmm.
this stuff either that I'm talking
Yeah.
about today.
I'm getting
But
it this week or next week. I can't remember which it is, but
should be this week. Yeah,
yeah,
later.
it may be next week if I keep the Amazon pre-order you and I talked about where they
Yeah,
delayed my package already.
but don't just cancel it and go to Target. You can do it. Teach Amazon a lesson. Um, so anyway, I played in there's 3 difficulty levels. Dragon Quest is the default. Draconian Quest is like hard mode, and then there's Draki Quest, which is easy.
Mhm.
Um, I played in Dragon Quest throughout the entire main story. Played in Dragon Quest. I played it with the battles sped up to be ultra
Good,
fast,
good.
and I also set it so that it was like you can either hold down the button to like make yourself walk a little faster, or you can have it set to toggle where you just hit it and it'll do it automatically.
Yeah.
And I had it do that automatically. Um, so I did all that. I also I did the extra content like hunting monsters, the monster arena, all of this stuff. I hunted mini medals, all that. So I played it on ultra fast. I played it in normal mode. I did do the extra content. Like I found Ortega's helm. I upgraded it. I got the Sword of Kings, Sword of Light. Did that as a side quest. I did the went around and got like the extra items that went to
Okay.
like all the locations that I didn't have to go to. Um, and beat the game at around 23 hours. That's where I
Okay.
ended up finishing the game at. So that's how I played. Like I did the extra content, but I did it with battle sped up. Um, I I don't want to spoil. I'm not going to talk about post game in this review episode because
Right.
I don't want to spoil things for people. Um, I did try to do it in post game. I put it down to Draki Quest for a time
Really?
because there was a really hard part. Yeah, a really hard boss. And um so I was talking to Platty because he reviewed the game for RP Gamer, and he was like, yeah, I put it on Draki Quest down through there, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll check it out and see what it does. I'm glad I didn't in the regular playthrough. Like if people want to play it in Draki Quest, that's fine. But I found out from setting it in Draki Quest, you can't die. Like the most damage you get, it always leaves you with one health. So you're
Oh.
basically like invincible, which like I like easy modes, but that one it
Uh-huh.
feels a little too much like cheating, where it's like you can't die. You can just sit there and like theoretically, and I did not test this out, but I mean, with my understanding of it, is you could put it in Draki Quest, put your tactics to show no mercy or whatever, and just like spam the X button and have your characters do it and just blow through the story and never actually have to do anything.
And any super boss as well. I don't know if there's any kind of post game super bosses or even in the main game kind of side super bosses like that. But with in Draki Quest, you would just be able to like just go press X and beat all of it rather than like you figuring out how to do the time worm in 11. That
Yeah.
like that makes me sad because I love easy modes. Like I
Mhm.
love when there's an option for an easy mode, but I also still want there to be a danger. Like I never
Yeah.
use God mode anymore. Like I did when I was like 12 and thought it was great and going through all this. Like, and no insult to people who do that, but like that's when I would use all of it. And then as I got older, I wanted to still be able to. As I got older, I wanted to be able to die. Just let me die, Dragon Quest. But really, like that's a disappointment to me because I still want to have at least a small amount of challenge during even on easy mode, like just a consequence. I shouldn't even say challenge, a consequence for stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that so I was a little disappointed in that because I was like, I'm the same way. I'm like, it's cool to play it in easy. Like I guess like the Trails games, like Trails of Cold Steel, like those have easy modes, but like you can still die in them and everything. Like they're like I've definitely like, gone down to like easy mode to get past a boss where I was just like, no, I don't have time for this. Like
Yeah,
beat the boss and then set it back up because you can change it. And that's how this one is. You can change it. So I guess like the good side to that is that like if you're
right.
stuck somewhere, you can just kind of cheat your way through it. But either way, I don't know. I was kind of disappointed that you just can't die outright.
Yeah.
So I will say that like I gave this game a 9 out of 10. A
Wow.
4.5
Okay.
out of 5 with screen rant structure. Because it's very, very good. At the end of the day, it's a remake, and I feel really, and this is probably a personal like thing, is that like it feels weird to give a remake or like a remaster like a perfect like score. You know what I mean? It's like because it's not like a
Yeah.
new game. It's like that story already existed, and some of the new stuff that's like in this one, I didn't feel like like the going back to the difficulty thing. Like this was one thing that bugged me is I felt like the balance was off on this one, and
Really.
like I've played a lot of versions of DQ3, y'all. I've played my share of DQ3, and this one was weird where it's like the first chunk of the game felt way too easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was talking to Platty about it earlier, and I was like, yeah, the first like I played on Dragon Quest like normal mode, but I had my tactics set to like fight wisely and stuff like that. And I never had to jump in and worry about following orders until the minor spoiler here, in case you've never played the original game, but Orochi, the big dragon, that's in Japan, the second time you fight Orochi, I had to put my characters on follow orders for the first time.
Ah,
And that's
okay.
a chunk into the game. Like if you played DQ3, like that's
Hmm.
pretty far in. It was a very, very easy game. And I was a little disappointed. And I was like, okay, should I like put it up into Draconian Quest? Like this feels very easy. But I was also like, well, I'm on a timer here. I need to beat it, so I can finish
Right.
my review and all. So I left it in just normal Dragon Quest, and then there's a part, I'm not gonna say when because it's a spoiler, but there's a new boss, okay? And there's
Okay.
some new stuff in the game, so that shouldn't ruin it for anybody. But there's a new boss. There's a time where the game does this a few times where there's like it does the old switcheroo where like if you played a version of DQ3 and you're like, oh, I know, this item,
Uh-huh.
you go right there and that's where it is. Well, you go there and then it like psychs you out and it's like, nope, it's in another location now. Like it
Good.
does stuff like that to kind of mess with you, which I actually kind of liked about it because there were sometimes I'd be really cocky and I'd go into a
Hmm.
dungeon and I'm like, no, I'm just going like straight here. And then it would, psych me out. So anyway, there's a part with that where they throw in a new boss to kind of mix it up there. And the boss was like really, really hard. Like I died. And there's an option where you
Wow.
can do it like original, you boot up at a church, or you can just
Oh.
you can do a rematch, or you can use an autosave. And it autosaves after like every battle, which is something that's
Oh,
pretty
that's
nice and
nice.
helpful. Yeah. And um, so I just used the rematch, to fight it again. And it took me three tries. On the third try, I finally beat it. And I was like, wow, like I'd been blowing through this
That's
game, like it was just easy peasy the whole time. And so when I got there, I was like, maybe it's because it's a new boss. Like it's a
hmm
new boss. They just, the balancing is weird for just the new boss. But then it was like, no, after that, even the bosses that were already in the game, like were really, really hard. And it's
Mm.
not like Dragon Quest 2 where like you get to like cave of like out of the cave of Renderak, cave of
Yeah. And
whatever, and
just
then you're like there, and it's like, oh my God, like how will I ever survive this? It's not that bad, but it was like a very like jarring difficulty curve, and then it was just like I the encounter rate also felt really, really high. Um, and I think maybe early on that kind of helped me out because
mm.
when you level up in this game, it restores your health and MP and everything every time now. Yeah, I
Much.
thought you would
Thank you
like
so
that.
much. Like I love that. That it's seriously something that keeps me from it prevents the tedium where I
Yeah.
don't have to like run back to an inn if I'm out grinding or something like because after the first few levels they're not really often. They're often enough in general for most games, but not having to go and break up sessions of looking for something or a dungeon or
Mm.
whatever. Like I love it when they refill your at least your health, even if they don't do your MP or whatever. But I'm assuming they do.
Yeah, yeah. You like go all the way back up, which I think is part of what makes the beginning so easy is because you're leveling up more often.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and because the encounter rate was so high, at least, from my experience, the encounter rate was so high, I was like you were leveling up because I didn't run from fights. Like
Mm,
later in the game I did, like there's some um sections of the game, like the Cave of Necrogon, which I just hate anyway because it goes on forever. The pyramid early on is another one of
mm.
those dungeons that just like annoys the crap out of me in every version of the game. And so there's stuff like that where like eventually I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna flee, and you can just like hold down triangle to flee. And I was like, you know what? Like
Hmm.
I didn't flee often enough that like I would take a hit, but to my party. But there were times where it was just like, it'd be like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I want to get to like this part before I turn it
Yeah.
off for the night, so I would just flee. But early on, I think that's what part of what made it so easy is because I was leveling up so fast.
Yeah.
And then late in the game, you level up a lot slower, and so you do have to. There is the need to like I would explore a dungeon, evac out, and then go rest up, save, and then get a zoom back,
Oh yeah.
that kind of stuff because of the monster uh, mini game. And this is
Okay.
of all the ways that this game is fresh, like that, this Dragon Quest 3 is just a monster recruiting game to me, like the remake, the
Yeah.
HD-2D remake. Like the story is all the same. The like Ortega, new like Ortega stuff that they
Yeah.
teased is very disappointing. I did kind of
Oh.
dock the game for this because it was like, new Ortega stuff to like flesh
Yeah.
out the story. And instead it was just like all the stuff that it tells you about with Ortega already. Instead, it would fade to like black and it would show like a 10 to 30-second cutscene of that being
Oh.
enacted with like voice acting.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, and I read faster than the voices go and everything.
Hmm.
And so it was an inconvenience, honestly. I was like, yep, I know that like Ortega and like this dwarf knew each other. Like I don't need this like 10-second clip of them talking about it to each other. Like
Right.
it really didn't add anything to
Oh
the game.
man.
And it felt like I was hoping for something more like, in 11S where they added in those side stories where you
Yeah, that's
played
what
as
I was
them.
thinking it was going to be, where you would get to a certain point and have the option to kind of take this on or be just kind of shunted there, where you were going to play as Ortega or do something along those lines, or to take on this storyline. I didn't expect it to be cutscenes that were voice acted to explain, what was already in the game.
Yeah. And so I
Hmm.
was really disappointed by that because I was
Yeah.
expecting that I would maybe get to play as Ortega or maybe there'd be like some really new story beats.
Yeah.
And if there were new story beats put in, they didn't like register with me at all. It really felt like they instead of like in other versions of DQ3, like you'll go around and like people will talk about Ortega and talk about your dad, but like
Hmm.
you don't necessarily see it. And so in this game they would tell you and then it would like goes and then it opens back up and there's like a 10 or
Right.
15-second thing and you watch it and it goes and it goes back. And it's not super common either. And so it felt very like half-hearted.
Right.
Um
Yeah. Put
I'll
in
say
as a marketing thing more than like new content.
it just
And
yeah, it just didn't feel like they like really like tried all that much with it.
right. That makes me
And
sad. Not
yeah,
enough to like not play the game or anything, but a little disappointed there's not just an extra like separate gameplay section, kind of like a different kind of gameplay or a different feel.
yeah. And so I did kind of, dock the remake a little bit for that because I felt like I was expecting more than what was
Mm,
there, and it was really
right.
disappointing. But like by and large, like the stuff that this game is monster catching, okay? And when I was talking to Platty earlier about it, it's one of those things where like, we're both big Dragon Quest
Mm,
fans, and we played it, reviews are out, and so it was kind of like and so we're understandably chatting about it and things. And so anyway, um like both of us were talking about how many more like okay, I said I beat it in like 22 hours.
yeah.
I would say easily like 5 of those hours is probably um like exploring and trying to get monsters because what you do, there's a new vocation called Monster Wrangler
Hmm.
that I actually really liked. I put him in my party. My main party for most of the game, for people wondering, was the hero, of course, Monster Wrangler, and then initially I did Priest and Mage, and then I ended up once I unlocked the Sage ability, which you have
Mm,
to get in the Tower of Transcendence, and it's like you don't have to do it to beat the game. But I did that, went to All Trades Abbey, and traded my Priest up to a Sage,
right.
and so. And it was really cute because like I named the hero Austin, and then Naomi was the monster wrangler, and Nora was the sage, and Rowan was the mage. So it was like me and my three daughters, like we all went on a little adventure together. And I let them pick out
Oh.
because when you make your character, you can choose, man or woman, and
Yep.
then you choose each one has like 3 or 4 like options. Like the way they
Okay.
look, like their clothing is a
Yeah.
little bit different depending on like which one you want to go with. Their clothing changes, and you can pick that outfit, and then you can adjust their hair color. And then you can either get the game to automatically put in seeds to determine their personality, or you can put the seeds in manually. And
Right.
so I think the problem with my Monster Wrangler is the personality made it. My Monster Wrangler died a lot. And I
Oh.
thought maybe, and it felt like it was slow. It took it a while to learn abilities. Like all the other jobs, the vocations were like learning abilities and spells like really, really
Right.
quickly. and it felt like Monster Wrangler took a little while. But then late in the game, Monster Wrangler was really cool because if my like casters ran out of MP or like got fizzled or whatever and couldn't cast, the Monster Wrangler knows some good abilities that he can just use those abilities. And like there's one called Monster Pylon that would do like 400 to 500 damage at one point, and then
Yeah.
there's another called like Boulder Toss that doesn't, and they're also like AoEs. So it's like if you're fighting multiple monsters, it can hit them all. So and it made the game feel a little bit different because it's a new vocation, and so I kept that one in my party. But part of how it levels up is by recruiting these monsters in the
Hmm.
wild, and you unlock this like after you leave like Aleahan at the beginning, and you can go around to towns, and thankfully you can learn an ability called Animal Instinct that lets you like that will tell you if monsters are around or not.
Oh, that's
And
useful.
yeah, and so you can find them in towns, you can find them in dungeons, you can find them in
Mm.
the little secret areas on the world map that you can visit and stuff like that. Sometimes you have to put on musk so that you can approach them quickly. Not too many of those. And then there's quite a few that like only are there at night. So like you have to come to the town at nighttime or
Hmm.
whatever for them to appear. And the game will tell you that. It'll say like there's a monster nearby, but it's not ready to come out at this time, so you have to like change the time of day or whatever. Um, whenever I beat the game with 64 of these recruited, and
Not
yeah,
bad.
and through the main story of the game, there's 9 rounds in the monster arena and I was able to beat
Okay.
things.
Okay,
Um,
great.
yeah, there's a 10th one, but I haven't found it yet. I assume it's in the post game, but I don't want to talk
Oh
about
yeah.
post game yet. There's a reasoning behind all this for why I think this. But anyway, so I did the 9 monsters. So all of that really adds on to that time. So like I would say probably a solid 5 hours of that was for this. Um, and like it's I mean, I love the monster recruiting stuff. Like I loved it.
Right.
It's really well done. It was a massive distraction, and honestly, I feel like DQ3
Yeah.
remake, this version of the DQ3 remake, to me will always be the monster one. It's like the one with the monsters. If it were a Friends
Yeah.
episode,
I
that's what
was
it would be.
opening my mouth, man.
Yeah,
Uh
that's what this game would be, and it's good. I do miss some of the other mini games that like previous ones have had.
yeah.
Um, I'm also, I don't want to say a whole lot about the post game, but I think I've done all but one thing that the post game offers, and
Oh.
that's a disappointment in its own right because it's not like all the post game stuff like the Game Boy Color version has, or even like a lot of the post game stuff like the 11S has.
Yeah.
Like I think that's at the end of the day, that's why I was slightly disappointed. Half a point in a review disappointed with the game is that like you had 11 and 11S, and 11S added on way more content than what you have. This like 2D HD remake is just like whatever. And so like I was a little surprised, like disappointed and surprised that it didn't do
Yeah.
more than it did. But what's there is still really good. I mean, it's DQ3, it's a classic. So it's like all that stuff is really good. Um I would have just liked there to be a little bit more. And maybe there is. Maybe I'm here at what I think is the end with this
Right.
like last super boss, and maybe there's more after that. I don't know, um, but yeah, I'm kind of like
Hmm.
I don't know. I just thought there was gonna be a lot more to it than this. And
Especially at
instead it's
23 hours. 23 hours and getting through the post game is a little weird for a Dragon Quest game.
I got through no 23 hours was the main story.
Oh, okay. I understand. So you've got more hours in the post game than that. All right. I misunderstood what you were doing
I
because
don't
I was thinking it was all the playtime together was 23 hours at this point.
I don't even know what my playthrough is now. I marked it whenever I beat a game
Yeah, of
that I'm reviewing. I always I mark what time I beat it at just because
course.
it like as a nice reference to like tell people. Because people want to know, how long a game is. Um, so but yeah, the monster recruiting stuff is a lot of fun. The extra items and things that they've put in there. There's not many of them, but there's like some fun little side quests to go and get like, the best sword and
Right.
stuff like that. And the game also, you can disable this if you want, but it circles things on the map for you so you know where to
Yep.
go, which I like. It's
I
very
do
handy,
like that.
but it's also a little disappointing. There's
Yeah.
like some times where I was like, oh, this is sad because it's like whenever you get to the part of the game where you get your ship and it opens up a lot more and
Right.
you're going to start hunting for the orbs, you pull up the map and it's just like, go here, go here, go here, go here, go
Yeah.
here. And it's just like, oh, like I would have liked like I mean, I guess not me, I know where those orbs are, but like it kind of takes away from it a little bit. And like early on in the game, when you find your first mini medal, it's a notification pops up and it's like,
Right.
um, turn these into the king. He's in the well in Aliahan. And I'm like, you know what? I like the mystery of going down a well and finding out what's down
Yeah.
there. Like you just totally spoiled it for me by telling me where to take this mini medal. Um,
Yeah.
so there's
That's
little things like that that I was kind of irked by, I
huh.
guess. Where I like wish it had kept some things more mysterious. Like it definitely
Yeah.
felt very handholdy at times in that kind of way. But then, like I mean, the last probably fourth of the game is a bit of a challenge. Like there's whenever you get to like minor spoilers again if you've never touched any version of DQ3, but like towards the very end of the game, whenever you're doing stuff with like Tower of Rubus and Zoma's Castle and Um, there's I can't even think of the boss right now, but it's where you throw the mountain cleaver into the volcano.
Mm,
Um, like there's some bosses along the way that like are pretty tough. And that, it did take me like a couple of tries, to get past.
right.
There was one there was one in particular um that is that's a spoiler. Whenever we do our episodes, because we're gonna do this is just the review. So
Right.
we're gonna
Right.
do episodes like we typically do here at DQFM, where it's like, bit by bit, where I'll give commentary as BJ's playing it.
Hmm.
So I'll save it for there. But there was a boss that took me a few tries. It was like it was really RNG related, I guess. But once it gets there, I'll talk about it. But my kids were like watching me play it, and they were like, Dad, you got to go level up some more. And I was like, no, I got this. And they were like, are you sure you need to like go and like level up? And I finally had to go. My problem is that I kept trying to do a rematch and I didn't have enough items. I needed some more items
Oh,
in on my characters to be able to restored MP. I kept running out of MP too fast
right.
because I had a more magic leaning party. And so what I ended up doing was booting it up from an autosave, um, putting a lot of like like Sage's elixirs and things in my
Yeah.
pocket, and then like walking through the dungeon and getting back to the boss real quick. Um, but yeah, my kids they're like, Dad, you don't got this, and I was like, I got this, I got this. Um, but but uh,
That's
but yeah, I got it. So
so you told me one thing about it early, and it was that you can zoom indoors. Was That's the only thing I really knew about this game at all, and I'm
which
so excited to know that you don't bump your head anymore. Though I do understand that that's a little sad that you don't as well.
yeah, which is something that you could do in previews too of it already. So it wasn't like
Oh, I didn't realize that the previews had that on there. I had completely missed that. So when you had said that, uh,
it was in the previews. I think that maybe a lot of previews didn't bother mentioning it because they're not necessarily DQ dorks the way we are, where I like knew
yeah.
that you would be like, happy about that. So but yeah, there's a
So
lot of there's a lot of ways that this game makes it a lot easier to play. And I think it's probably the like and that's the thing too, is that like the I guess I was trying to think to myself too, like this is for people who haven't played DQ3 before, who want a good, like accessible way to play
mhm.
DQ3. And like in that regard, it's really solid. I mean, it's very good. Um, I'll save these spoilers for later, but there's ways that make it connect to one and two now,
Awesome.
that strengthen like those connections that
Yeah.
are really, really cool. There's a moment at the very end of the game that's probably like one of my favorite things. Um, I don't know. It was just really cool.
Awesome.
Where like it didn't exist until now, and they threw in like this little tidbit there at the end, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I really like
Great.
that. That was a nice little surprise. Um, and so there's stuff like that that is cool, and it's like, it's made me excited for the one and two
Yeah.
remake when those come out next year. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good game. Anybody that's on the fence about it, because I know it's like a $60 game, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, well, if I've already played DQ3 before, like I still think it's worth it because of like it looks pretty. I mean, the HD-2D style does look really pretty. Like I mean, it looks gorgeous. Like on PS5, up on
I
my
bet.
TV, it looked really pretty. And so it's like, and there's even though the Ortega stuff is disappointing, it's like the way the different little things that they've added in and everything. It's just like if you played Dragon Quest 3 within the last like 3 months, I don't know that you're gonna enjoy it that much. Like it
Right.
definitely is very faithful to the original. If you've played Dragon Quest 3 in the last like year, it's probably like, like I don't know if you want to get it day one because it is just like a game you just
Just
played within the last year.
DQ3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's been a while, I had purposefully deprived myself of Dragon Quest 3 for like the last couple of years because I knew the remake was coming out soon.
Yeah.
I was like, I want it to feel semi new.
Yeah, you're
Um,
like practicing Dragon Quest asceticism where you're just depriving yourself for
yeah,
pleasure later on. Uh
yes, that's
it
exactly what I was doing.
the I'm curious about one thing about the Monster Wrangler, and I thought it
Mhm.
was going to be like the DQ Monsters games where it was monsters that you fight that you either recruit or learn stuff from. So you can't do it through combat at all. It's all looking around and finding them on the world map and in dungeons and things like that.
Yeah, I thought it
Okay.
was going to be, I thought it was both. I thought it was going to be like in DQ5, like you fight a monster and then sometimes it like pops back
Yeah.
up. And I was like, yeah, like
Yeah,
I thought
that's
it was
kind
going
of
to
what
be,
I thought it was going to be.
yeah, I thought it was going to be like that. And then maybe you find some in the overworld,
Hmm.
but I don't think so. I've played the entire main story and what I think is all of the post game, and a monster has never joined me after combat. So either it doesn't exist or I've just had terrible, terrible like RNG luck.
Wow, that's and I understand. Like that's the system. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna definitely have a Monster Wrangler in my first party, and I'll probably run this same party as you at the very beginning, at least. So that's usually my go to.
Yeah.
But I whenever I can get Paladin, I sometimes replace Priest with Paladin.
I might. It depends on play styles. If I could go back in time and like talk to Austin as he's booting this game up, I'd probably tell him to do. I'd probably tell him to do a fighter
Mm,
instead because I felt like I ran into trouble with my classes were so MP heavy, and I try to
yeah,
avoid doing that, especially in like early DQ games where MP management is like such an issue. Um, where I felt like I needed like somebody that could just hit heavy with a sword. Because
right.
even the hero, like so many of his abilities that he learns are like really powerful.
Yeah,
So it's
but
like
they
you
take
lean in,
MP.
yeah, but they still take MP, but you lean into doing those. And so I was like, um, I kind of wish if I'd gone back, I think I probably would have tossed the mage out because Sage,
Ah,
I probably would have kept Priest there so that I had heals early. But then
mhm.
Sage can basically, learn stuff
Yeah,
from both. And probably I would have kicked the mage out and done warrior, but it was one of those things where like when I got to All Trades Abbey, I did it because I really wanted a sage. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, they keep their abilities or whatever, but I didn't want to have to go back to level one and have to worry about grinding so much.
right.
Um, and I did find an island that had just like the encounter rate of metal slimes was like 50%.
Wow.
Like every basically, yeah, like one out of two times I would always get like four metal slimes would spawn.
Not
Um,
bad.
so that I think is intentionally like supposed to be like a
Oh,
little
I'm
slime
sure.
island. Um, Whenever I was flying around, I mean, I did a lot of exploration. Like if you're just trying to play through this story, I think it's probably a quick
Yeah.
game, but I cannot stress enough how much of my time I wasted just looking for monsters.
Yeah.
There was a time, um, I'll talk about it later. But
Yeah.
anyway,
So,
I
and
went
I'm going to
out.
be playing it on Switch, everybody. So we'll have a bit of differences on how, the performance of the Switch is versus the PS5 because I was really going back and forth on which one I wanted because I've been playing the PS5 a lot more lately. And I decided to go on Switch because I like doing grinding and things like that on my phone. Or, well, I say on my phone, but on my Switch or handheld while I'm doing something else, like watching a show. I just constantly hit X. And, but yeah, so I'll be interested to see how it holds up versus the PS5 version.
Yeah,
But we are running out of time because of our free version of Zoom that we're using, as everyone knows. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Austin, for actually going through this with everybody, for
yeah,
everybody, so that we know what to expect later this week. I
yeah, for
guess by
sure.
the time this goes up, people will have it in their hands. So if you didn't grab it, then this is a good reason. Hopefully, it'll help you decide.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. Remember, Dragon Quest FM, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And you can listen to this or watch this because we have video of it today. So you can watch this over on our YouTube channel. If you want to talk to me personally, I'm at Blue Sky at Dragon Quest.
And I'm on Twitter or X sometimes as BJK Games, Threads and Instagram, bjk.games, and Blue Sky is bjkgames.com, I think. So thank you guys so much. And again, thank you, Brian Franklin, for being a new patron. And if anyone else would like to support the podcast, you can do that at patreon.com/DragonQuestFM.
Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all.